We're just going to wait a minute for everyone who's registered to hop in. In the spirit of the new year, why don't you introduce yourself in the chat? Let us know where you're from and maybe share what is your New Year's goal this year. Not doing resolutions this year, doing New Year's goals. I'll share mine. I want to become an intermediate user of SQL, not just an elementary beginner user. What are y'all working on this year? And hello, everyone who is continuing to roll in. Hello from Mexico. Hi from Northern Ireland. We have a global group today. Yvette, you're working on your sales skills. I love that. All right, we're just going to wait until about 2 minutes past the hour. Claire, you're working on your reviews. So excited. We're going to chat through and teach you some really good tactics for that today. Hello from Florida. Hello, web e-commerce. I love it. Increasing wholesale counts and working on wedding cheesecakes. Hi from Houston. How to use reviews to help sales. All right, well, you're in the right space. So we have a fair amount of our registrants online. Let's hop in and get started. Today, our webinar is all about how to use product reviews to amplify your brand presence in 2024. Welcome, my name is Tila. I am a product and partner marketing manager here at Stamped. I've worked in the B2B SaaS space for about 8 years now, 2 years specifically in D2C. I'm really passionate about data-informed marketing design, multidisciplinary marketing mixes, and that's really what led me to Stamped. I find the work that y'all do as e-commerce managers and e-commerce digital marketers endlessly fascinating because you have so many experiments that you can run and so many different channels to play in. Outside of work, you can find me book clubbing. You can catch me at the yoga studio, and I love to cook as well. So really looking forward to walking you all through kind of our product review today. What we're going to get kicked off with too is a couple housekeeping pieces. So we are recording. If you need to hop off today, you're going to receive that recording automatically after. Use the chat, ask your questions. I know a lot of people submitted questions, so we are going to have a Q&A period at the end, and you will have a follow-up after, some additional resources. We'll edit this recording and find some really valuable clips for you to pull in so that you can really start actioning these tactics today. Before we hop in, we're going to do a participation prize today. You may have heard me say book clubbing. We love reading. We love learning here at Stamped, and we want to celebrate that with you. So we're going to randomly select a participant who's active in the chat, and you will receive a $100 Audible gift card. So stick around until the end. We'll just randomly scroll through the chat and select someone to win. All right, so our agenda of what we're talking through today, we're going to kick it off with understanding a little bit about reviews in 2023. How did brand performance work? Well, how did they implement kind of brand awareness, and what did that look like? Then we're going to talk about what loyalty marketing is and what does it have to do with reviews. How can you be thinking kind of full cycle with your reviews? We're going to dive into 4 really actionable tactics, and there's some sub-tactics in there, so you're going to have some homework after this webinar. And then we'll move into a Q&A. All right, sound good, everyone? Let's hop in and start talking a little bit about 2023. So what we really saw in 2023 was overall a fairly flat year in e-commerce. There wasn't a ton of growth. There wasn't a ton of decline. By the end of the year, a lot of things really leveled out. And what we really found was that full funnel marketing was becoming more expensive than ever. And I saw this reflected in a few key metrics that we keep a close eye on here at Stamp that we think really show the health of a marketing program. So the first is customer acquisition cost, or CAC, which continued to rise in 2023. This has been a trend for years at this point because there's so much competition in the space. Cost of production and supplies has been rising as well, but since 2017, it's risen by 60%, and a large amount of that was actually in 2023. The second number or metric that we saw boost a little bit was customer repeat purchase rate. And this one I thought was a little bit inspiring or good news for you. This is a measure of how many people make a secondary or a tertiary or just an ongoing subscription of purchases after that first one. If you have a healthy repeat purchase rate, then what you'll actually see is your customer acquisition cost goes down a little bit because you're able to kind of balance those overall. Focusing in on this number, which we're going to talk about some tactics to do so today, will help you to grow the brand really sustainably. And finally, a lot of companies have smaller budgets this year. That's one thing that we've been hearing from a lot of our customers, a lot of our leads who we've been chatting with about starting to use Stamped is I actually have less tech budget this year and I need to do more. Smaller budget, bigger goals. So, what we're looking at are smarter strategies and full funnel tactics that you can impact multiple areas of your business and multiple areas of your marketing strategy with one tactic, as opposed to having to throw all of your budget into paid ads where you might not see the same ROI that you were seeing at the start of 2023. Let's define loyalty marketing. So, if you're a digital marketer, I'm assuming that you are familiar with the concept of retention marketing, and that's designing post sales experiences to re engage your customers. So, I've had that first sale, I have my top of funnel. What's my bottom of funnel and my middle of funnel to re engage those folks and kind of create more of a flywheel? Loyalty marketing takes that concept one step further, and it's actually having you consider re-engagement from that first touch or from that first tactic. So you're thinking about, how can I interact with the right profile of customers? How do I show them the right content so that they're able to convert faster and then become re-engaged right away, as opposed to having that, okay, let's sell to everyone, and then once we sell to everyone, let's figure out who the customer is, who we should be re-engaging. Loyalty marketing is thinking, okay, let's start with our persona or customer profile and then build from there. So you're really focused on building an enduring connection with your audience, with your customers from that first touch to encourage a longer customer journey. And reviews are a really key way to do that, because they build a really authentic touch point with your customer that supports the sale, and then asking for a review after a sale. It's a way to have a point of conversation with them that's not transactional, it's not promotional too. All right. So next, let's chat a little bit about narrative design. Oh, sorry. We'll talk about customers here. I think that this relationship piece is often missed in marketing. And after being in marketing for so many years, one thing that we can often get stuck in the digital space is looking at our graphs, looking at our reportings, thinking about our lead capture and our re-engagement campaign planning, and forgetting about the audience that we can leverage. And so, what we can really help you do with reviews is to build out brand awareness in partnership with your audience. Your brand awareness is that measure of how deeply that you're embedded within your total addressable market. And your total addressable market is how many people you can sell to in your geographic region, right? Being online and having advancements in being able to ship to different countries, that can increase that market. But ideally, what you want to know is, how often is your brand name coming up as an alternative to the competitors that you're targeting? How often is your brand name coming up as an example of a best-in-class brand or a best-in-class product? And lots of people are measuring this right now with site traffic numbers. They're looking at their social engagement rates. They're looking at their brand community. But I want to challenge you to think of your reviews as a metric of your brand awareness. If you are thinking of your brand as, how am I impacting my total customers or those customers that I want to work with, your reviews become a really positive feedback loop for you to feed into that concept of loyalty marketing. So if you take away one learning from today, it's, how can you leverage your customer stories to support your brand narrative? Ultimately, this is language that we've been playing with lately. Your customers sell better than you do. Consumers tend to trust reviews more than they trust written brand content. I don't know about you all, but I've spent much time writing copy for different campaigns. You can A/B test it. You can actually run it against different strategies. But what ultimately will perform the best is having something that comes from a customer. Testimonial, reviews, maybe UGC. So let's hop into some tactics to increase the volume and quality of your reviews, and then to deploy them across your marketing channels and increase your overall brand. So we're going to start with the framework that I'll have you work with, and this is narrative design. How many on the call are familiar with the concept of narrative design? I'm curious, or is this brand new to everyone? New. Okay. We're gonna kick into it. So narrative design is a multidisciplinary management of how your brand story unfolds and connects with your audience to inspire the desired actions. It's achieved through co-creation of stories with your customers, through how your team operates and how you go to market, or how your public reputation is managed. And I love this concept when you're thinking about brand awareness, because kind of the old school style of brand awareness is thinking about, okay, what does this tweet say and what's the copy here? But this is really becoming relevant to all types of digital marketing in that you're not just building your brand based on your own work, but you're considering how others are talking about the brand and your reputation in the market. You're thinking about your reviews and how word of mouth impacts your reputation. And so reviews become one of your most powerful tools when you're building this narrative design program or strategy. If you can influence positive reviews and then showcase them on the channels where your prospective customers might find you, you can influence your reputation in the market. As a marketer, I used to find this a little bit challenging to consider because it requires kind of a lot of letting go of a bit of the control that you might have over your traditional brand narrative. But what it's actually doing is it's building in some authenticity and trust and kind of co-relationship building in that brand awareness with your customer base. And so if you're able to control the quality of the products and the quality of the distribution, assumedly you can often control for the quality of the reviews. And there's different ways to increase those types of reviews. We'll talk about that specifically. So let's hop in there. Question from George. Will you share the slides with us after? Yes, we will share the slides in a follow-up. So let's talk about specific tactics to increase the volume and quality of reviews that you're collecting. A lot of you asked about this in the pre-registration questions, was how do I collect more reviews? What's a good number of reviews to be collecting? And then how do I collect higher quality reviews? So the first is with Stamped, you have the opportunity to send email review requests, and we have an embedded form in that email where folks can write their review and leave their rating. Industry-wide, we think that 3 emails are best to have the best conversion rate. And what I mean by that is that you're sending out your review request. You send one. If someone doesn't reply, then a week or 2 later, you send another review request, and a week or 2 later, you send another one. So you're having a 3-part sequence asking people to leave reviews. Each email in this sequence should have a unique subject line, and that's to prevent anything from landing in spam. And you should use Stamp's personalization feature to have liquid variables like first name or product name in the subject line. The next tip is to keep it really quick and concise. Don't have the ask be too long. You want the ask to leave a review to be above the fold in the email. If you're a small business, maybe you're going to want to say something like, hey, first name, support local by leaving a review. So think of what those keywords are that are going to actually drive the action from your customers that match up with that brand narrative or your brand book. And then for the content of the email, I really want you to think about personalization and branding here. So does the content of the email match the emails that come from other areas of your brand? By that I mean, is the font the same? Is the color the same? If you have key images that you include often, are you including those as well? And then is the content clear about what you're asking? I've seen some review request emails that have a bit of a brand story at the start and then a thank you for making the purchase and then the review request. And what you're asking your customers to do when they receive something like that is to be considering, okay, this is about the brand and then this is about me. You want to make it quick and easy, reduce the cognitive load for them, and just have the ask before the review request. The next piece is to play around with different timings. So end Stamped, you ideally want the review to be received, or the review request, sorry, to be received by the customer after they have the product and after they've seen some value from the product. So depending on the industry that you're in, this is going to look a little bit different. A good thing that I like to point out is if you are a supplement company, maybe what you want to do is wait for a couple weeks after the customer has received the product to ensure that they've tried it and seen what those early benefits might be. So maybe you're sending after fulfillment and then you're sending 3 weeks after that to make sure that customers are trying the product before they leave the review. If you're something like a beauty company, then maybe you want to ask that earlier when your people are kind of capturing that excitement when they've just received the product. So consider how you can leverage timing to increase the amount of reviews that you collect. And then the other piece that you can look at too is to consider incentivizing for reviews. And this is often where I think quality of reviews will come in. You can explore a little bit with coupons. You can explore a little bit if you're using Stamped loyalty with points. This is something that I see done really well is maybe you're offering points in exchange for review. And if photo reviews are a priority, which I know that they are for a few of you, you asked specific questions about photo and video reviews. If those are a priority for you, then you can actually offer further incentives for a photo review. So maybe you offer 100 points for um, 100 points for leaving a written review, maybe 200 for a photo, and maybe 300 for a video. Yvette, I see you have a few questions about support. I'd love to chat with you about this at the end. So let's chat about this during the Q&A session. Absolutely, we can chat through that together. All right, so those are some tips to collect more reviews. Some other tactics that you can implement are to use the Stamp Smart Assist feature as well. This is something that will actually prompt customers with different keywords that they can use to write really high quality reviews. And then the final piece that you can do is to think about which products that you're requesting reviews on. You can really focus in on different products. So maybe you're launching a new product line and you want to focus as many review requests as possible on that. There's functions and features in Stamp that will allow you to determine which products that you're requesting reviews from above other products too. All right. I see this. Jen was sharing that we've done UGC video review testimonials and offered a 20% off discount exclusive to each customer on our site. It worked well. Absolutely. I'm so glad that that's worked for you. It's one of the strongest ways to really improve those amount of video reviews that you're collecting. All right, so let's talk a little bit about channel automation. We've collected our reviews. We know that they're higher quality. We have our photo reviews. Maybe we have some video reviews. And what I want to talk with you about here is, where are you putting those reviews after you collect them? Our answer is everywhere, but we'll be more strategic and tactical about that. The first place that reviews should be is on the product pages. And so on a product page, oftentimes you'll see reviews down at the bottom. What I'm going to encourage you to do is to think about ways that you could possibly have reviews above the fold. There's a few stamp brands that do this phenomenally, and we'll share some resources in the follow-up. But essentially, you want to make those reviews really easy to find, and so that customers can kind of filter through them, sort through them alongside your brand imagery and alongside your brand written content. The second place that does really well is on a product display page. So this is when you're running something like an ad campaign and you want to push to something like a pre-sale page, a pre-sale page instead of a product display page. Pre-sale page is a page that you push from an ad campaign to before they land on your website. So a dedicated landing page that is all about the product that you've run the ad page or the ad campaign around, and that is where reviews can perform really well. The next one that we see a lot of customers and a lot of brands do is to actually create a dedicated reviews landing page. Tentree has a really good example of this that we'll include in the follow-up, but it's just somewhere that you can send customers who, if you're running a campaign around reviews, and they can just navigate and scroll through reviews and interact with them there. The next place that you should be considering implementing and deploying your reviews is in your ad creatives as UGC. So I'm assuming everyone on the call is running ads, be that on Google, be that on Facebook or on Instagram. And ad creatives are always something that can be a little bit challenging to come up with and create. And having actually UGC content embedded in them is something that we see perform really highly over time. Wonderful. I'm glad that the landing page is working well for you, Cameron. The next channel that I'll encourage you to consider is social media. And so in social media, how many of you on this call, I'm curious, are also running the content pages for your social media? If you're a smaller business, it's pretty common to be owning reviews and then to be owning the social media channels too. Having a content pillar that is built around UGC, where you're repurposing photo reviews, you're repurposing video reviews regularly as a content stream on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, or on Twitter, can really support with engagement rates. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is to look through your photo reviews and then to think about repurposing those across the channel. We have different tools that allow you to automate those processes. We have Instagram curation galleries. We have opportunities to be able to share that and to create things like, we call them social banners, for you to actually automatically create a social post. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. All right. Two more places that I want to encourage you to think about placing reviews, and we're going to go over this in detail, are across your marketplaces. So if you are selling on Instagram and Facebook shops, that you're actually pushing reviews to those channels. If you're selling on Google or you have a Google listing, that you're pushing your reviews to those channels, and then the same for Shop app too. let's talk a little bit specifically about photo reviews because this is some really interesting metrics or performance data that we pulled from last year's BFCM weekend. So, photo reviews should be an additional consideration because they perform even higher than written reviews. What we found was that the standard conversion rate for most product display pages is about 1 to 3%, depending on the time of year, depending on the traffic to that page. But during Cyber Weekend, we actually saw about a 17% conversion rate for customers who were using Stamped who had photo reviews on those pages. And this just shows the power of UGC and photo reviews. This kind of scrolling view that you're seeing here is Georgie, Maine, and their photo review widget and what that looks like. So you can see how it could look like in practice for you. But I want you to consider adding your photo review widget above the fold on your product display pages. So can you have that photo review imagery be the same as your brand imagery, even integrated in this? They're not a Stamp customer, but Tarte does this really well on their website if you want to see an example of how reviews are showcased directly beside product imagery. Then I want you to consider using the stamped carousel photo reviews elsewhere on your website. So this is the opportunity to kind of scroll through different photo reviews depending on different pages that you're on, etc. It complements and replaces that brand imagery again. And then the final is we talked about dedicated reviews landing page. What about a dedicated photo review landing page? If you are a brand where actually seeing the product in action, like a beauty brand, like an apparel brand, like a fitness brand, is something that will influence purchasing decision or buyer decision, this can be a really powerful way to kind of bring that story to life and to leverage that brand awareness that the photo reviews are creating. All right. And the last thing I'll say about photo reviews is that it's included on all of the Stamp paid plans. So if you're using the free account right now, then you won't be able to collect them, but all of the paid accounts you can collect photo reviews on. Right. The next tactic is to make sure that your reviews are searchable and that you can automate the searchability. So when customers are on your website, they're on a product display page and they're looking at reviews, oftentimes what they want to do is to find a review that matches what they're looking for or that matches their personalization needs. A good example of this is a customer of ours who's a cold weather clothing brand. I'm up here in Canada. I saw a lot of you posting about how cold that it is today. -3, -20 in some places. It's cold here. So what I would want to do is if I was shopping on this website is to be able to actually filter by temperature that the piece of clothing is really valuable for. I'd want to filter for people who lived in my area, maybe for even time of winter. And so being able to search through reviews for those different pieces can actually really support with my ability to become a converting customer or my buying decision. So what we found is that customers who interact with and search through reviews convert higher. The average PDP conversion, again, is between 1 to 3%. And we saw this being at 18 to 25% for people who actually search through reviews and interact with reviews. And the most effective searches, and by effective, I mean those that are influencing conversion, tend to help the user select for a customer sub-profile that they want to see reviews for. So if you're a hair care brand, those searches are probably things like short hair, curly hair, dry hair, sensitive scalp. And what you as a brand can do is to look through those review searches that customers are doing and to optimize your ad copy, your creative copy, your product display copy to include those searches. You're kind of using the reviews as kind of a feedback loop to inform your brand awareness messaging. Something really powerful that you can implement and doesn't take a ton of work. You can even A/B test it in an email campaign or in an ad campaign pretty simply and with a lot of light lift. The other thing that I will say is that we do have a feature called custom forms. And this is a way to ask specific questions that create a bit of a segmentation or a profile for your customers when they leave a review. And let me explain what that means. That is, if you are asking someone for a review and you're a beauty brand, maybe you're asking what their skin type is before they leave the review. Maybe you're asking what their skin concerns are, or maybe even how long they've shopped with you, something like that too. And then people are ultimately able to filter reviews after for others with the same skin type. Super effective, super powerful, and it's a really simple way to kind of maximize the engagement rates that people will have and the interactivity of your reviews. People want to click around and find the information that they're looking for. It's up to you to make it easier for them to find that. All right. So next, let's chat a little bit about repurposing UGC across your social channels to build your brand narrative. We talked about this a little bit, but there's two types of UGC that I'm thinking of here that you should be considering. First are ad creatives, and the second are social creatives. Both of these can be a bit of a drag on your content team's time. Social is more crowded. People are spending way more on ads at this point, so the space is overall more competitive. Oftentimes, you want to be balancing quality and frequency. So having a channel that is a little bit automated and self-serve can support you to be posting more often without manually creating as much content. Last year, we hosted a webinar with the Snow Agency where they talked through some actual templates that you can use for UGC. I'll make sure to share that in the follow-up so that you can repurpose a large amount of those. But this won't replace your brand marketing or your affiliate strategy. It's going to complement it and to fill out your content. As a stamp brand, someone who I always look to as an example of an amazing use of reviews within their social channels is Only Curls. If you're not familiar with them, they're a hair care product brand. They specialize in curly hair care products, and they allow their customers to tell their story for them. So you're going to notice this when you go poke around on their social channels, is that you'll see a lot of branded imagery, but you're also going to see a lot of user-generated content. Thank you so much who added in the explanation of user-generated content there. In terms of ad creative, we have a couple tools to automate this for you. There's social banners. You can actually export photos. You can add more to them. You can have watermarks on them if you would like. And we do have a couple integrations too, primarily with a brand called Gatsby that allows you to kind of leverage your social channels and to tie it together with your reviews. Perfect. All right, let's talk a little bit about marketplaces. So we had a couple questions about Google products and Instagram, about shops on Facebook. Your marketplaces are anywhere where you sell your product outside of your primary website. And so those are frequently Google, Meta, and Shopify or Shop app. There's other channels too, like TikTok, there's Amazon, etc. But what you're going to want to do is to syndicate your reviews to the marketplaces where you're represented, so that as you're implementing those review strategies on site and allowing folks to increase their purchasing decision by reading reviews, you're doing the same thing across other channels. And this is kind of a holistic, full funnel marketing tactic where you can think of whatever I'm doing on site, I'm replicating across other channels so that my brand is creating a really consistent experience for different customers. All right, so we'll talk first about Google product and seller ratings. I think a lot of you had questions about this in the pre-registration form. You wanted to know about how to set this up. So let me talk through what it is, and then we'll talk through setup process. Google seller and product ratings are the primary vehicle for e-commerce business owners to add social proof to Google Ads and listings in the Google Shopping or Google Marketplace. With Stamps integration, you can include your stamped product reviews and your Net Promoter Score in Google Ads. And this is the differentiation that I want to make sure that we understand today. So Google product ratings are individual product reviews that you can push to Google. So if you've ever searched for like shoes from this brand and the first listing is actually going to be a Google Marketplace piece that you see, and you see the star rating below that and then maybe reviews below that too, oftentimes those are stamped reviews that have been pushed from Stamped to Google using that integration. Adding this integration actually increases conversion on the channel by up to 10%, which is pretty compelling for the fact that it's an automated integration. The second piece is called Google Seller Ratings, and this is an automated integration or extension type that uses your Net Promoter Score or your NPS. If you're collecting NPS at Stamped, this is a measure of brand happiness or brand satisfaction, not product satisfaction. So keep in mind, these are two different things. If you're focusing in on product reviews, you're going to want to think about your Google product ratings, not your Google seller ratings. And the reason that these are compelling and that I would encourage you to consider using this feature is that about 48% of shopping journeys begin in Google, which is wild when you think about that. Half of your traffic is starting there. So make sure that you're optimizing that as a top of funnel strategy. Stamped reviews are SEO optimized. You can actually integrate them into the marketplace itself. And that way you'll appear higher in listings when people are searching for different products. The feature of Google product seller ratings or Google product ratings is available on the Stamped Business, and seller ratings is available on Stamped Professional Plan. And I'll make sure that we include pricing in the follow-up email too, so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right. The next channel to consider syndicating to are your shops on Instagram and Facebook. I love shops on Instagram personally. I think it's such a compelling channel to leverage your existing audience. You're spending a lot of time creating content for that channel, and the same with TikTok. You're creating unique content and engaging with people there. So it's the opportunity to kind of capture the moment of inspiration and to further or quicken that purchasing decision. Facebook and Instagram are some of the best channels to do that because you're leveraging your existing customer base, you're leveraging your existing reviews, and you're just combining it all together into one strategy. So what this integration does is it actually sends your reviews directly from Stamped to Instagram or to Facebook. So when people are looking at that product, they can read through Stamped reviews at the same time. Does the same thing that it would do on site, right? People want to be able to see the reviews, read through that social proof, maybe even see some UGC before they make the buying decision. All right, and this is available on Stamped Premium and Up plans. If you have questions about it, we'll send a follow-up resource around it too. All right, the final channel is Shop App, and this is new. We just launched this at the end of 2023. It's a super exciting channel. How many of you are using the Shop App function with Shopify? I'm super curious because it's a little bit newer. Leave a minute for you all to reply in the chat. Yeah, awesome. Personally, I love it as a way to track shipping as a consumer, super easy to use. And we also find that the conversion rates are really high for review requested too. All right. So Shop App is Shopify's digital shopping assistant app, and it makes it really easy for customers to check out, to track their orders, to see their shipment details, and to discover new brands too. You can search on Shop App the same way that you would in something like Google, where you're searching for a product and then it will offer recommended products. So you're not only engaging with your existing audience, you have the potential to find new customers through it too. There's about 100 million customers that Shopify reports are using Shop App, and it's simple one-click purchase too. So you're reducing kind of that buying journey for them. If you're using Shop App as a channel, there's no reason not to be pushing your Stamped reviews to Shop App. About 35% of orders on Shop App are repeat purchases, so that's pretty compelling if you're working on that repeat purchase rate. And there's 1 million shoppers in the channel, which we already chatted about. The Stamped and Shop App integration enables two-way syndication of your product reviews between both platforms. So when it's enabled, what's going to happen is your Stamped reviews are automatically sent to Shop App, and your Shop App reviews are actually also automatically sent to Stamped. So you're kind of doubling your review count in both places, which is really valuable and really beneficial. Really good tactic to increase your brand reputation and your credibility with the new audience. All right, so those are tactics for today. We're going to move into Q&A. Before we do that, I'm going to recap and have a summary for you. So in summary, tactic 1 is all about narrative design. It's how are you building your brand awareness in partnership with your customer community, with your audience, and not separate from them. And that's where you're using reviews. Tactic 2 is how to increase the volume and quality of reviews. And that's about really honing in on your review request sequence, making sure that you're sending the right amount of reviews at the right time, and that you're testing your copy for both your email subject line and your email content to ensure that it works really well for your customers. Your third tactic is to automate your reviews across your channels. So you are putting reviews on site where they're most likely to impact conversion, and you're checking that over time. That you're using photo reviews alongside your product imagery on site. You're considering landing pages dedicated to reviews, and you're integrating it into your social channel, into your ad strategy. You're having user-generated content become a core content pillar for you. And then the fourth and final tactic is that once you've replicated or you have those processes in place on your website, that you're syndicating the reviews to marketplaces to increase that brand awareness for new customers, and using reviews to really kind of highlight your brand story and your brand narrative you've been working so hard to build with these new audiences who are discovering you through Google, through Shop app, through shops on Instagram. All right, so there's been a busy chat, lots of Q&A. I'm going to go through and chat through, answer as many as I can. And a lot of you submitted questions too in the pre-registration form. We'll go through those too. All right. All righty, question 1. Can we use non-intrusive AI chatbots to help streamline or optimize the review process without adding CX friction? Super interesting question, Paul. So we have the Stamped IQ Assist or Smart Assist feature, and this isn't a chatbot, but it is a tool in Stamp that will actually suggest different keywords to your customers when they're writing the reviews based on keywords that other people have left in positive reviews. So you might want to explore that. I'll share a resource in the follow-up to make sure that you're familiar with that. Can you talk about the legalities of posting customer reviews from your app on social media? Do you need customers' permission to post their photos on other platforms? Yes, you do. And there is a way to ask for that in Stamp. So if you're using our Instagram curation feature, you can ask for that directly. I'll make sure that that's in the follow-up too, so you know how to technically set that up. Good question, Heenal. Do written testimonials work for ad creatives or only photo and video UGC? I've seen both, actually. So right now, video is obviously trending because we have Instagram, we have TikTok, even Facebook is trending towards video. But the written testimonials will often be something like a banner message, or if you're testing something like a graphic review, or sorry, a graphic ad or ad content, maybe you actually add the review onto that and then have an image of the brand. So you can test all 3 of those, I would say. All right, lots of you are one-man shows. I appreciate you. I kudos to you. I shout you out for how much work that you're doing building out these cycles. You asked, how do you syndicate reviews to Instagram, Meta, and Google Shopping? I hope that we answered that. I'll make sure that the exact how-tos are included in the follow-up too, so you know how to implement. Claire was asking, what is UGC? That's user-generated content. We have so many articles teaching you all about UGC and how to repurpose that. I will share those in the follow-up so you can review them in detail too. Question from Paul, really interesting one to think about. Overall, is influencer-generated content more impactful than the everyday end user UGC? This is going to be different for every brand and probably depend on your influencer and your affiliate strategy. So it's kind of a trend that's happening in consumer psychology right now, where people are predicting influencer content has been paid for by a brand, or that a brand has given them a script. And so it's becoming less trustworthy than kind of organic reviews or organic content. What we often find are that people end up using a bit of a mix of both. So you're still leveraging your influencer content creation and your affiliate network, but you're also adding in reviews as almost that like true organic version of voice of your customer. And then your influencer is to amplify that too. If you are someone who works with influencers to get them to have reviews, you can use some of the keywords that we talked about in the searchability of reviews. Maybe you look through how people are searching through your reviews and then have your influencers hit on those when they are writing reviews. Kiana asked a question, is this possible with Walmart.com? We do have a syndication with a tool called Bazaar Voice, where you're able to actually push your stamped reviews directly to Walmart.com, using them as kind of a midpoint. Perfect. Who's using BigCommerce with Stamped? It doesn't look like anyone on the call, George, but we do have a fair few customers who do use BigCommerce and Stamped together. Perfect. All right. Can you talk about the legalities of posting customer reviews from your app on social media? Do you need customers' permission to post their photos on other platforms? You do need customers' permission if you're creating photo or video reviews. There's ways to ask for that in the direct email. So by leaving this review, you consent to having it shared across other channels. If you're using something like the Instagram curation function, then there's an automated process that will actually tag users asking for their permission to share before you do that. So I'll make sure that all the instructions are in the follow-up email for you. Okay. Kiana, I hope that I answered your question too about stamp reviews on Walmart.com Marketplace. Keep asking questions in the chat, y'all. Perfect. And I'm going to open up the pre-registration questions. So there were a lot of questions about how to best leverage reviews in social media. And we talked through that a little bit today, but I want to give you some examples of brands to go check out who are doing a phenomenal job of that. We talked about Only Curls. Go look at their Instagram page and their TikTok. It's amazing. They're really leveraging reviews. Another brand that is doing a really phenomenal job of this is Georgie Maine. You can check their Instagram, and then InnoSaps too. Those are 3 examples of high quality reviews being shared across social media. Yvette, you have some questions about chat support. Are we having issues receiving emails? Yvette, I'll follow up after this and ensure that your questions and your support are being followed up on to just make sure that your answers are getting resolved. We do have chat support at our pro plan and above level, and then we have email support for all other users. So I'll make sure that you have access to those. Claire, I can absolutely type those brands out for you. So I'll put InnoSeps in the chat, Georgie Maine, and Only Curls. Perfect. Cameron, I'm so glad that the email support has been working well for you. That we'll figure out where your email is and make sure that your problem gets solved. All right. So next question was how to get customers to share a positive review. I thought this was an interesting question. Ultimately, you can't control what customers are going to write, right? Some people might have the 1-star experience. Maybe you ask them for the review too early. They haven't received the product. They leave 1 star saying shipping's taking too long. That's a pretty current or pretty common thing that will happen with reviews. So there's a lot of ways to control for that. The first is to ensure that you're sending your reviews at the correct time. You're also able to remove people from your review request sequence list, so you can suppress different email addresses. If you know that someone is just going to write really negative reviews, you can reach out and not ask them for reviews. And then the final thing that you can do is to actually respond to negative reviews. This is an interesting statistic that we talk about all the time. It's not actually just about collecting and showing positive reviews. Having negative reviews on a product page can really increase conversion because it's more trustworthy and it looks less like a brand is manipulating those reviews. So if you want to leave a couple to 1 or 2 star reviews on those pages, what you'll often find is that it actually builds that kind of brand trust or the consumer trust in that psychology of like, oh, they're not removing the reviews that are on there that might be 1 star. People are looking for that authenticity and the real version of the picture. The only thing that I would say is to make sure that you are replying to all of those negative reviews. So there's a feature in Stamp where you can reply to a review and it's shared publicly. Make sure that you're doing that so that other people can see exactly what you're responding to and you're building that transparency piece. All right, the next question that came through was how can I connect reviews to my POS? Most of my sales are done in person at art festivals. I'm not capturing reviews from them. We do have a Shopify point of sale that can work for that. I'll make sure that the follow-up includes the technical doc on how to set that up. Again, that only works for Shopify. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for BigCommerce currently. All right. What's the best way to use reviews to promote sales? This is such a good question. And we are just coming off of wrapping up all things BFCM, so it's really timely. There were some amazing review request campaigns that happened. And on the follow-up, there are amazing sale campaigns that integrated reviews this BFCM. So one thing that was really powerful this year were the amount of brands who actually led with UGC or led with review copy in their kind of promotion campaigns. A good example of this is a fitness brand that I subscribe to their emails because they are constantly doing innovative things, is when they launched their BFCM campaign, and that's their Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign, they actually had reviews integrated in it. And something that they did was in the subject line was say 5-star products are 20% off. And then once you click into that, you're able to see what are the products that are on sale. And then they actually embedded reviews within that email too. They're using reviews as the lever to further the sale. They're kind of leading with social proof and the discounting strategy, as opposed to leading with the discounting strategy and then adding social proof, product imagery, brand imagery on top of that. It's a really good example of that kind of full cycle loyalty marketing tactic that we talked about at the start, right? Where you're considering what's the full journey here and how can I lead with this kind of shared brand awareness piece and then add on the additional tactics or the additional layers of information on below. All right. Another good question here. Perfect. Let me just scroll through and find this. Y'all had a lot of questions. A lot of them were about Google, so we'll make sure that we follow through this. What's a normal percentage of reviews for an e-commerce brand? I thought that was a fascinating question. It probably depends on the amount of product that you have. It's going to be really different. I can give you the normal percentage of people who will leave a review after it's requested. On average, it's about 3% response rate. Between 2 to 3% of people will actually reply to a review request email. At Stamped, once we optimize all of those pieces that we talked about, so the subject line, the sequence, the content of the email, we usually see that bump up to about 4 to 5% review response rate. So you're able to almost double the amount of reviews that you're collecting in response. All right, and let's answer a couple more questions. This is a really good one that came through. It was the last one that y'all submitted when you pre-registered. How do you leverage customer reviews to assess the reputation and strengths of potential targets? I'm assuming by potential targets there you mean products. And this is a really interesting use case. So reviews should not always just kind of sit there, be pushed together. They're a feedback opportunity for you to improve your product. So we do work with one brand who shared this use case and this tactic that they use to use reviews to support their product design. When they launch a product, they collect reviews and then they actually analyze those reviews to look for themes and trends in them. What is the fabric that people would prefer this? Do they think it's itchy? Do the straps dig in when you wear it? Is it comfortable? And what they'll actually do is when they launch the follow-up product or maybe the like V2 of that product, this company is a bra brand actually. So they launch the one bra, maybe its straps are too tight, maybe the fabric's too tight, and then they'll have their product design team make it more comfortable. They'll use those negative reviews and screenshots of those reviews in the relaunch campaign and say, we heard your feedback. Here's exactly what you shared, and here's what we changed as a result. So that's called a feedback loop, and it's a marketing tactic that is leveraging this information and data that you're already collecting to optimize the product and then to remarket or relaunch the way that you're kind of going to market with that product. All right. So a couple other questions. We'll get to our last one here. Paul asked, I'm going to expand on John's question. What are the ethics and legalities around using AI content detection, such as in reviews? Should it be flagged? I'm not sure the answer to that, Paul. I'm going to follow up with you after this. I'll dig into that a little bit and make sure that you and then also John asked that have the information that you're looking for on that. Great. Huda, yes. The name of the fitness brand that I just mentioned, that was InnoSups. Again, they're doing an amazing job at really using their reviews across the full cycle. So check them out, go subscribe to their newsletter, look at their website, and look at their social. All right. And so with that, before we wrap up today, we're going to choose our random winner. I'm just going to scroll here and stop. And our random winner today is Michaela Chin. So Michaela, you have won a $100 Audible gift card today for participating in the chat and asking questions during the webinar. We'll follow up after with you and make sure that you get the link to that. Thank you so much, everyone, for hopping in and for joining today. I hope that these are some good tactics. We'll share the recording with you after. Mark, you asked, where can I access the recording of this session? It's going to automatically update with the recording, and then I'm going to send an email later today that has the recording, that has all the resources that we talked about. We'll put the slide deck so that if you are wanting to implement a couple of these tactics, you have the exact resources. And then also I put on here a QR code. If you're not yet using Stamped, I know we had some new customers on the call today and you want to talk with a sales rep from Stamped to really understand how could these tactics influence my business. This QR code you can use to book a demo. I'll also put the link in the follow-up email too. Yvette, I'll follow up with you one-on-one to make sure that you get your questions answered. And thank you all so much for giving me so much of your time today. I hope it was valuable. Looking forward to hearing your feedback. And we will see you for our next webinar in February, where we are talking all things loyalty marketing. So see you then. Have fantastic days, everyone. Take care.